Rising costs of living. Hello and welcome to today's Steelo podcast, where I'll be talking about the rising cost, but not of living, but of running a business. So I guess we all know the phrase, cost of living are going up, and it's very easy to see that when you go into a supermarket and without even tracking the prices in the past, you can clearly see that everything costs much more than it used to. And I guess these increases are much higher than the official inflation statistics. But that's down to our personal pockets. But let's talk about how it looks, or what it looks like from inside a business. So for us, unfortunately, as I guess many companies, we are on the receiving end. What this means, there's a lot of pressure in terms of salaries, so we do need to, match and increase them in line with the market and with inflation. But unfortunately, we can't do the same with our pricing, which is something I guess if you're our customer, you're quite happy to hear, although you might have experienced that we did try putting up our prices in line with our increased cost, but unfortunately we became too expensive. So we ended up in a very quiet period because our costs or prices were more expensive than others. Now, the other thing that has happened along the years, we did have, as a company, a rent review that bumped up our rent by, in one case, depending which unit, by almost 100%. So no matter how you look at it, that is a massive increase on the running costs. When it comes to our energy bill, just to put into perspective, one of the units, we used to pay £1,500 per month. Now it is £4,500 per month. And almost across the board, the prices have gone up, which probably means, without delving too deep into the numbers, but probably around 40% increased running costs. Now, the thing that didn't help the steel industry is the fact that the price of, or the cost of material has skyrocketed. So again, to put into perspective, in a very short period of time, probably a few months, it went from £600 up to £1,500. So this is a whopping £900 per ton of increase. And the worst thing is that if we just added at cost the increased amount without taking into account any increased running costs of the business, to our customers, it meant increasing our prices by £900 per ton. Now, unfortunately, this is the bare minimum, because we also have to somehow in our pricing reflect the increased running costs of the business. Without it, it would be very naive, because obviously sooner or later we would die, we would run out of money. But the problem was that if we applied our previous formula, which was just a multiplier, so let's say 1.5, which is not the real number, but just for this example. So if you add 50% of the initial price, which was £600, then that is only £300 of margin on top of the base price. So basically the customer pays £300 more. Whereas if we applied the same rule for the increased cost, so for £1,500, now 50% is £750. Therefore, instead of paying £300 more for the steel, our customers are paying £750 more. So obviously it would have been nice to keep it at that kind of ratios, but because of it, we had to reduce or change the way we create our quotes. We had to lower the margins, just so that the pricing is somehow realistic. Unfortunately, there was a time, and I guess we're still continuing with that, where our pricing does not 100% reflect our increased running costs of the business. So effectively, it means we are earning less per ton than we used to even 2 years ago or so. So obviously this is very short-sighted, and no business can continue like this forever. We are well aware of it, but we also have very good financial tracking tools implemented, One of them is we call it our X points, which is a great tool to monitor how we're performing on a daily basis. But in the dark days, unfortunately, it is also one of those numbers that keeps you up at night. Knowing how little X points we get per day, and knowing that actually we need more than we used to in the past because of the increased running cost, it really bothers me as the owner and as the management team. So on one hand, it's good to have this kind of KPI because it's a very helpful tool, but on the other hand, it's the KPI that will nag you and keep you awake at night. But still, all in all, that's exactly the reason why we have that KPI. It is to open our eyes. Now, the other thing that is happening, and actually earlier today I had a conversation with a colleague here, there's this mental side of things. In the past, we had a target of, let's say, 100 X points, which is all fine, and this somehow equates to the amount of money that we receive. But if the running costs of the business increase, then so should your KPIs. So now we should, let's say, as a bare minimum, have 120 X points, which doesn't mean there's more work to do, but that's because of inflation. So now we need to do 120 X points, which is equivalent to the 100 X points 2 years ago. But unfortunately, the mental barrier, which means that our employees are fixated on 100 X points, and to them 100 X points means a busy day. That's it. We tried somehow to explain to them that no, actually now you need 120, 130 X points for the same amount of work in the past. But it's been so embedded for so many years, the 100 X points of benchmark has become a glass ceiling. And it's very worrying. What do we do about it? Because it is a great tool. It shows reality, but there's this mental block within the employees where they just still perceive anything above 100 X points as doing well. So I guess we've got two options. One is keep educating and sort of nagging, but that's something we've been doing. It didn't really help. And the other one is probably to somehow play with the X points, not to hide it, but just openly just say that X points aren't a true reflection of what it used to be in the past. And maybe, like with percentage, maybe the 100 should become our maximum capacity, where we know that we should hit 100 X points. And somehow inside there would be a factor, we've even joked it could be Michael's factor, where it sort of hides or somehow builds in the increased running costs of the business. Therefore, still aiming for 100 X points would actually be the equivalent to aiming for, let's say, 130 X points. So yeah, this definitely makes us think. We have to be very creative, but like I said, it's something that affects all companies, and I'm quite curious to see how this is going to pan out. We obviously know that almost every sector is complaining. There were a lot of strikes going on and industrial action. Everyone is asking for more money, understandably, because they can see that their overall living costs have gone up. Therefore, they want to ask for more money. The thing that I guess people aren't really accepting or aren't seeing is the fact that a pay rise doesn't necessarily mean a pay rise. Because in the UK, we have the threshold taxation system, which means that a lot of people will be bumped up into higher tax brackets, diminishing any pay increases. So yeah, it's not that straightforward. Other countries that have a sort of linear tax system, so they pay 20% on all profits regardless of how much they earn. It's slightly different because any pay rise there is just you just have 20% taken off it. So yeah, the UK is in a bit more tricky position. I guess the government is not complaining because they will be earning more money, but I don't think that increased amount of tax will be sufficient to pay the demands of all the employees that are paid by the government. So it will be definitely a very interesting few months, if not years, coming. but I'm quite curious to find out what are your experiences about the increased running cost of a business, and how are you fighting it? Are you able to offset that 100% on your customers, or do you also have to look at your expenses and trim back? Remember, though, that if you're trimming back on something, that means that you won't be spending it on someone or on something. So another company won't have that on their sales line. Therefore, their turnover will go down. Therefore, they will also reduce their costs, and also they will experience increased running costs of the business. So they will sort of shrink. When they shrink, they might not order as much as they did in the past from you, and so on and so on. And as you can see, this is the way a depression forms, where everyone is holding back and cutting expenses. Unfortunately, there's no good way out of it. It's normally always a sort of bad ending to it. But let's see, it definitely keeps entrepreneurs awake and makes us sort of find our creative side and then somehow make things work. So let me know what are your thoughts. How are you going to approach this cost of living crisis? And maybe you have some pointers that we can all learn from, which I'm very curious to learn from, or find out from you. So remember to sign up for future podcasts, and please share your thoughts on this as well. Thank you.